A strange idea has developed within spirituality over the last 50 years, and that is this idea that we don't need to study, and actually that study is counterproductive to what we want to achieve, be that enlightenment or whatever. A lot of people make this claim, and you hear this a lot. People say that, oh, you can never reach enlightenment from studying and so forth and so on. Now, this is a relatively new phenomenon, and you hear this a lot in the West. You don't hear it a lot in India or in Nepal or in Thailand or any places like that. Because if you want to follow an Eastern path, you need to understand the philosophical tenets and the actual tradition of what you are following. Otherwise, you have no frame of reference. And this is very important. What happens in the West, especially, is a lot of people will read, let's say the Tao Te Ching. Someone will read the Tao Te Ching and misinterpret what is being said because it's translated in English, and it may be a bad translation. And there are parts in the Tao Te Ching that says that you don't need knowledge and so forth and so on. And this is actually a wrong interpretation or a misunderstanding by people. It's not referring to that you shouldn't go out and try and acquire knowledge. It's talking about something else related to Confucianism. And it can be talking about other things as well. And so you need to understand that. It's not saying that you shouldn't go out and read books and study about things. This is ridiculous. You have a mind, you need to use it. It's that simple. And what you find is, especially within schools of Advaita Vedanta where people have satsangs and so forth and so on, the teacher will say that, oh, you don't need to do this. Who is the one who wants to study and all of this? And what happens is people get caught in this bind where they just don't do anything and they forget to live their life. And this is actually against the fundamental knowledge of Eastern spirituality. When we look, let's say, for example, if we look at non-dual action, which is one of the core tenets in Indian and Chinese philosophy, we see in the Bhagavad Gita, we see Nishkarma Karma, and we see in Taoism, we see Wu Wei in the Tao Te Ching and in the Zhuangzi and all these other texts. And what this refers to is a way of living. So an effortless way of living where you're not stuck or attached to any part of life. You are at ease and you are moving through the world, but not attached to it. So that also goes for the study you accumulate. You are studying naturally because you are attracted to the tradition. Does it mean you're attached to it? That's up to you on an individual level. But the important thing here is to understand is that when we study Eastern spirituality, is that you need a frame of reference to understand what you are trying to experience and what you are experiencing. This is why in satsangs and certain Buddhist circles and so forth and so on, a lot of people suffer from psychological problems and have a lack of understanding of the tradition because they don't even have any understanding of the actual tradition. They just associate with a name like Advaita Vedanta or Self-Inquiry or Tibetan Buddhism and Dzogchen and something like this, and they just identify with that word and they think that if they practice that they're going to achieve some sort of state of samadhi or enlightenment, but they don't, because they don't have a frame of reference. They don't understand what's going on in their inside. And so older habits continue to play out, the vasanas, the tendencies continue to be projected out into the world, and then we continue to experience more karma. So study is important. I remember this interview with Maynard James Keenan, the lead singer of Tool, who was in a radio interview, and he was speaking about all of these people who are trying psychedelics now. And he was speaking about how a lot of people actually don't go through any fundamental changes. Some people do and some people don't. And some people may be transformed gradually and some people don't get transformed at all. They just go back to their normal life and they think, oh, what was that experience? And again, they have no frame of reference. And this is what Maynard was talking about. People are having these experiences and they have no frame of reference for what they experienced. And this also goes for Eastern spirituality. This goes for meditation. This goes for anything. You need a frame of reference to understand what you're experiencing. This is why I try to always talk about the Eastern psychology, especially from a Vedanta perspective, because people they don't really understand the Atman, they don't really understand Maya, they just understand that, it's the self and that's illusion, and then they start to demonize their thoughts, and then they make a separation between the world and themselves, and this leads to all sorts of trouble. You don't have a frame of reference. See, this is why when you go to a Swami order, for example, if you go to a proper traditional Vedantic Swami order, study is critical. It's critical. You have to study. To become a Swami, you have to know a lot of things which actually help your meditation, which actually help you become the best version of yourself and hopefully enlightened. This is what happens. And this is also a key part of yoga, but part of Patanjali's 8 limbs. Study is a part of that. We need to study because you need a frame of reference. You can't just say, books are bad, and again, you're demonizing things. You're demonizing life. Books are bad. I don't want to have more knowledge, and people get really scared. They get really scared. They don't want more knowledge. They get scared. They think it's going to throw their worldview off. It doesn't. If you're attracted to, let's say Mahayana Buddhism, you need to study Madhyamaka Buddhism, Yogacara Buddhism. You need to study these older schools that became Mahayana and informed Tibetan Buddhism and Zen Buddhism and all of these certain paths. And in studying that, you have a richer understanding of what the Buddha is speaking about, and you have a more intimate experience with the tradition, which only benefits your meditation practice and benefits yourself psychologically. If you don't have a good mix of theory and practice, Eastern spirituality is not for you. If you're just going to go to satsang and you're going to go, I'm not going to do anything anymore, I'm just going to be the self, good luck. Because it ain't going to work. Because you live in society. If you're a sadhu, if you're a vanaprastha and you're in the forest and you've renounced the world, then okay. That's all well and good. But if you are anyone watching this on YouTube and you are in the world, you need to study, you need to learn, you need to understand about Eastern spirituality. And it's a really beautiful thing. A lot of people actually feel inadequate. This is something that you need to know. A lot of people feel inadequate when someone has more knowledge than them. And that's a big problem in certain circles in Buddhism and also in Advaita Vedanta, in the satsang crowd. People feel inadequate when someone has more knowledge. So they try to tear them down. He just studies books and this and that. You're still judging. You're still judging. And you know the thing is, the person who is absorbed in study and theory are less judgmental than the one who doesn't study at all. They have just made this artificial difference between the person who studies and themselves, who they think is the self. But see, their judgment is still egohood. Their lack of ease with life is still egohood. Enlightenment, in a sense, is related to unsui, the Japanese unsui, which means to drift like a cloud and flow like water. That's why Zhuangzi philosophy is one of the highest philosophies, because it's about the skill of free and easy wandering. So not the ability to judge this and that as bad and this and that. You can't follow the way. You can't follow the way. Judging things as right and wrong. You can't follow the way like that. You can't follow the Tao. You cannot understand the Atman then from that perspective, which means you'll never understand Brahman because you're stuck. You're stuck. You've made this artificial conflict between study and practice. And even practice, from a sense, from some people is not right. They go, I don't want to meditate anymore. I don't need to meditate. Everyone's always in this game of spiritual one-upsmanship. I see it a lot. I see it on YouTube comments, Facebook comments, and so forth and so on. People, I don't know why, they say things to me to try and prop themselves up above me. I'm not in any competition. So it's okay if you want to do that. But I just hope that you're learning from what I'm speaking about here today, because study is important. We need people who are sane and healthy in the world. There are too many people who are insane and unhealthy. And Eastern spirituality is a surefire path to sanity and health. If you study and you understand the tradition in its pure form, which helps you practice and become the best version of yourself, which is what the world truly needs. Shanti, shanti, shanti.